Hey guys. So I'm sitting here ready for my Monday live, not ready. And what does not ready mean? It means I just haven't sat and thought or talked with Kara about what I'm going to share today. And so I could just kind of wing it. I could just try to think of something and just talk until ideas come to me. But what I did is I looked at how am I creating not being ready? Wow, that's because I've been going really fast and doing all the things that I think that I need to do and should do, which I know that I've been up to, but it's just another example of that. So knowing the cause doesn't make the symptom go away immediately, so I get it. And another thing that I was just realizing last week, and I'm bringing it more online, but the thing about my life and my work is that the engine that drives my business is leisure time. And it makes it difficult for me, working from home and having a wife and a son, that's the thing that actually is the source of my creative ideas and the source of my ability to connect deeply with people is actually having time to do nothing at all and be alone. And so it's challenging for me sometimes to say to my wife, hey, I need time to just be by myself. She's got Asher, he's yelling, she's tired, it's been all day, I just need to sit and read a book. And it's to be fair, she doesn't really give me a hard time for that at all. She gets it, but I have my thoughts in my mind about what she thinks about what I'm doing. The idea of spending leisure time as the source of all my creativity and my ability to create in my business, it's a weird idea, but it's true. In a sense, I'm like an artist, right? And so artists need time to just be and to chill out and relax. But it doesn't look productive in the classic sense. But the truth is it is. And so I hadn't been prioritizing it, and I just sitting here thinking about how I wasn't prepared with the ideas for my live today and realizing that's another symptom of that same thing that's having me not take time to read. So what am I going to talk about? Well, I want time to read. So why don't I just actually read you a chapter from the book that I'm reading right now, and then we can both explore together, because I'm loving this book that my friend Phil recommended to me. Every chapter is kind of a standalone story from some ancient time in history or from some book that the psychotherapist who wrote the book, Sheldon Kopp, who's died in the 90s, but amazing dude. But he's taken that story and he's applied it to create some insight around the relationship between a psychotherapist and a client. And the way that he represents psychotherapy, it's very synonymous with my work as a coach. So I'm going to read you chapter 9, A Tale of a Holy Warrior. So I don't know what's in here, but there'll be something useful and valuable, especially if you're a coach or a therapist. And I'll probably stop while I'm reading and share any thoughts or ideas that I have, if I have some. John Bunyan chose to spend almost 12 years in prison, chose an anti-establishment religious nonconformity that cost him his freedom, while it earned him the opportunity to witness for what he believed in. He was a 17th century English working man, the son of a tinker, who became a dissenting preacher in the service of Puritanism, that austere disciplining of life in the service of a fervid religious faith. He wrote to tell his tale, to find his way, and to encourage his shepherdless congregation to face up to both political oppression and human temptation. He asks them to remember as they read his tale, I have sent you here enclosed a drop of that honey that I have taken out of the carcass of a lion. That's Judgments 14:15-9. I have eaten thereof myself also, and am much refreshed thereby. The most memorable rendering of his spiritual struggle in his allegorical novel, The Pilgrim's Progress, the personal urgency of his journey is clear from the very beginning. And this is a quote from that book, The Pilgrim's Progress. As I walked through the wilderness of this world, I lighted on a certain place where was a den, and I laid me down in that place to sleep. And as I slept, I dreamed a dream. I dreamed, and behold, I saw a man clothed with rags, standing in a certain place, with his face from his own house, a book in his hand, and a great burden upon his back. I looked and saw him open the book and read therein, and as he read, he wept and trembled. And not being able longer to contain, he broke out with a lamentable cry, saying, "What shall I do?" Many patients about to enter into the pilgrimage of psychotherapy also find themselves turned toward this venture by disturbing dreams, night visions, that are prophetic statements of their spiritual, emotional crises. And I'm thinking, yeah, the more I do deep work, the more crazy dreams I have. So if you've ever worked with a therapist or a coach and you have crazy dreams, you can relate to what he's saying here. Continuing on. I remember one tortured young clergyman whose underlying motivation for seeking help was the growing recognition that he had learned the tricks of successful ministry in the absence of really feeling full spiritual substance. Read that again. I remember one tortured young clergyman whose underlying motivation for seeking help was the growing recognition that he had learned the tricks of successful ministry in the absence of really feeling full spiritual substance. Okay. The superficial manipulative skills, which had served to make him appealing to many, were growing ineffective as he began to realize that his brand of inspirational goodness was a subtle form of evil, that he was up to no good. Wow, cool. So basically this clergyman, this preacher, was like finding out that he was spiritually empty and realizing he was a manipulative MF. Cool. The week of his first meeting with me, Sheldon's referring to himself, the psychotherapist, he had dreamed that he was a powerful warlock casting spells. But in this dream, he found all at once that his magical gestures and incantations no longer forked any lightning. He's losing his power. He hexed impotently with his hands and muttered sorcerer's gibberish, only to discover that for the first time, no one was controlled by his witchcraft. That was the beginning of a long struggle which gradually allowed him to reclaim and renew his faith, not through control of others, but through surrender to himself. Beautiful. Yes, and that's the essence of my work, right? It's like not trying to control not only others, but surrender, not just to others, but to yourself. Surrendering to yourself. It might never actually look like surrender to others, but surrender instead of control. I'm declaring every day I am that I surrender control to serendipity. I surrender timing to synchronicity. I surrender independence to synergy. I surrender stewardship to ownership. This is part of my declaration in support of my work with Richard Eyre, who wrote The Happiness Paradox and The Happiness Paradigm. 2 books, one book by 2 titles. Continuing on. Bunyan's dream figure is Christian, the spiritual pilgrim of this allegory. The book is the Holy Bible through which he has become aware of the prophecy of his coming destruction. He and his entire community are all to be burned with fire from heaven. On his back is the weight of the burden of his own sin. What is he to do? He tries in vain to rouse the others, but finds that each person can only save his own soul. A man called Evangelist appears and counsels him to fly from the wrath to come. He must follow the shining light to the wicket gate. There, if he knocks, he will be answered and told what he must do. I love how all these old stories have such classic hero's journey thresholds in them. So begin Christian's pilgrimage. It is beset with hazardous temptations, but there are unexpected helpers along the way. Classic hero's journey. Early on in his journey, Christian falls into the slough of despond. Slough? S-L-O-U-G-H, sleh? I don't know that word. Slough of despond. A bog that cannot be cleared up because it is descent, whither the scum and filth that attends conviction for sin runs continually. This conviction of sin is the awakening of the soul, the first stage in the Puritan experience of conversion. As in psychotherapy, confronting one's own personal garbage is the way to begin. I love that. I love looking at hurt. I love looking at stuff. There's a quote in here, I wish I'd underlined it, about evil. I posted it the other day on Facebook in my creating school. Oh, here it is. This is a quote from a different chapter. If we flee from the evil in ourselves, we do it at our hazard. All evil is potential vitality in need of transformation. To live without the creative potential of our own destructiveness is to be a cardboard angel. So I love Kopp, the author's understanding and focus on like looking at the garbage, the shit, the stuff that hurts, the darkness, the evil in us as a way to set ourselves free. My big inquiry on that right now is like, wow, there's such a fear of disobeying. I would notice that in this desire for my son to obey me that just comes from my body. Intellectually, there's no need for him to obey me, but my body believes that he should. It's like, wow, I'm coming to discover this part of myself that believes somebody needs to obey. And if I'm so concerned with him doing it, then of course, subconsciously, that thing's driving me And so it's like, wow, how am I trying to obey? What is the evil that I think I would be if I wasn't obeying? And starting to actually welcome that and look at that and be that, set myself free, unlock. Continuing on with Kopp here. Further on along the way, Christian encounters Mr. Worldly Wise Man from the city of carnal policy. He advises Christian to give up this dangerous and troublesome journey, fraught as it is with wearisomeness, painfulness, hunger, perils, nakedness, swords, lions, dragons, darkness, and in a word, death and whatnot. Christian is tempted to give up striving to enter at the straight gate, but he discovers that there is no salvation through moral righteousness. Fuck. You mean being a good person isn't going to save me? Shit, good reminder. The failure of this attempt is the second stage in the Puritan psychology of conversion. Easy cop-out solutions are of no more help to the Christian wayfarer than they are to the psychotherapy patient. Being a good psychotherapy patient, being a good coaching client and showing up on time and doing all the exercises is not going to save you. Your coach thinking you're great is not going to save you. It's not going to set you free. And there's a lot of coaching relationships, I think, that function that way. I've been guilty of it on both sides, but I'm always looking out for it because it's just another way of supporting the prison, or keeping that false illusion prison alive. At the gate, with the help of patience, another person by name of word that we know, at the gate, with the help of a person named Patience, Christian, the person, learns that he can only be illuminated through the gradual education of Bible study and meditation. That sounds toilsome, doesn't it? But probably true. This third stage of his conversion is the equivalent of the patient's learning that psychotherapeutic, let's say coaching change, also comes in bits and pieces. No wham bam thank you ma'am? Yeah, sorry. Which must be paid for with time and painful efforts. Shit! That's why my coaching clients I work with for a year or more, because it's like, it's how it works if you want actual change. Further up the straight road, Christian finds his way fenced on either side by the wall of salvation. With great difficulty, he runs to a place where the cross stands, and there his burden of sin falls from his back into an open sepulcher, S-E-P-U-L-C-H-E-R. Sorry, I don't know that word. Here, then, is redemption, another person by a name, redemption, the final stage of his conversion. Yet, it is not the end of the drama, but the beginning. When a psychotherapy patient gives up just trying to feel better in recognition that he must instead be willing to change, that too is a new beginning. Oh, you mean I'm not here just to feel better? I'm here to actually grow and change? Wow, the path has just unfolded before me. I thought it was one thing and now I'm finding out it's something else. Wait, that's not what I signed up for. Yeah, that's why I take money up front and don't give refunds. So you want to actually change? This is what change is. It's not just feeling better. The idea that every pilgrimage itself and not its end point is the spiritual goal has always been difficult to grasp. People love that line. It's the journey, not the destination. They love it as an idea, but actually being in it, it's like, fuck, you meant that? Yeah. Christ came, and with the revolutionary zeal of a true shaman, he turned Judaism upside down. He was opposed by the priestly class of Pharisees who had divided their countrymen into two classes of saints and sinners. The Pharisees themselves were, of course, to be numbered among the righteous, while the others, the Sadducees, were condemned as transgressors. They sought to maintain the religious establishment. He came to renew the law by overturning it with revolutionary reinterpretation. Christ roused the multitudes and sent them off once more upon the journey of salvation. Right? He was like, don't look out there, look in. Good dude, good idea. For a while there was an atmosphere of true religious fellowship, of loving and searching. Sounds like Woodstock. But 1970 years prior. But as ever too soon, the charisma of Christ-inspired leadership became routinized. Charismatic. That's a problem. Did you guys know that I was once studied by the University of Cambridge psychological department? They did this covert study. They had me speak to the business department because they wanted to study what they called my charisma and the impact it had on the students in the business school. Could my charisma inspire them and influence them in a way that would take them away from the morality? That was the actual point of the course. And they basically had me do this talk as myself about living a passionate life to business school students. And then they did it for two groups, two separate classes of business school students. And basically what they did is they looked at how my charisma basically influenced them to steal. So they thought that maybe people would steal the pens that they were given more if they were exposed to my charismatic talk than they would if they weren't. And so then my second talk, I didn't do an impassioned talk. I just did a talk that was the same content, but without my personality. I had to very much mute myself and just talk in a very normal, boring way, deliver the same content without charisma, and couldn't move my hands. And then and the idea was to see, like, did that impact their moral ethic? Were they more likely to steal the pens when they were under the spell of my charisma? And the answer was no in the end, but it was because charisma itself isn't what actually makes people immoral. It's charisma used in the direct, this is my reason why it didn't work, is charisma used in service of taking people away from the morality. It's not just charisma itself. So it's like, what are we using it for? So anyway, bit of a departure there, but let's go back. For a while, there was an atmosphere of true religious fellowship, of loving and searching, but as ever too soon, the charisma of Christ-inspired leadership became routinized. The practical considerations about how to maintain the church and expand its power drained the spiritual fire and excitement of being an early Christian. Instead, one had to learn to be good Christian. Shit! No longer was it important to live out one's salvation. Instead, the point became to achieve it and keep it. Yeah. So it got basically turned back into what it was before. Christ's message was like bastardized and turned into a rule book. Salvation, the attainment of the kingdom of God, became something to work toward, a pagan utopian ideal, a perfect place to go to, a pilgrimage with an end goal. Boy, it just is inevitable, isn't it? Some of this quality of achievement of ends is apparent in The Pilgrim's Progress. That's this book by this guy that he's reading about right here, John Bunyan. But at his best, Christian Bunyan's Man on the March is more committed to the going than to the getting there. Latter-day Christian existentialists have illuminated this distinction by pointing out that being good in order to achieve the future rewards of heaven is a pietistic striving characterized more by pride than by virtue. I totally agree. That's what my experience of Catholicism was. It's a dead, vacant, ritualized, without any of the potent of myth, rule-based caricature of the Christian ideal. And so I turned my back on Catholicism as a teenager, not with that same maybe articulated reason, but still felt sense, became very atheistic, and then found my way back to spiritual experiences of life and something we could call God through other means, primarily through Eastern philosophies first, and then back into finding my way back to Western religious themes and even Christian themes through Christian existentialism, which is an interpretation of Christian myths as a path for psychological growth and spiritual realization in yourself. But that's not what most Christianity that I've come across sees. Anyway, let's see. The kingdom is come, it is here now at each given moment for each of us. It need only be accepted to be achieved. Each moment of salvation must be encountered for itself as part of the spiritual journey. But we do not get to keep it forever. We do not get to stay in the kingdom of God except as we spend our lives on the road. Eternity does not mean forever. Eternity means beyond time. Oh, I like that. Because it's eternity is like infinity. It's not even a number anymore. It's like the absence of time, actually, eternity means. Outside of time, no time. That's what Joe Dispenza calls it, no time. My wife talks about that a lot. She's in no time, which is not now, it's not later, it's not at all time, it's just not even time, which Krishnamurti says, in the absence of time, there is no fear. So it's not the now, it's just non-time. Time is a construct that we experience in our mind. It's a conceptualization of reality. There is no time other than the idea of it. And that's not to say that something isn't passing and happening out there. There's not flow, but time is an idea that we live very much as if it's true, but it's not. It's an idea. I also like the idea that taking Krishnamurti and riffing with it, in the absence of time, there is no desire. There is no suffering. There is no pain. There's actually nothing in the absence of time except what Eckhart Tolle might call now. And I do love that idea, but I don't think it's as powerful as the absence of time. If we live as pilgrims, then at each moment of revelation, we step out of history and into nature. The kingdom is come for those who would grasp it, but at each moment it must be regrasped, and then at the next moment regrasped once more. The openness to salvation must be reasserted again and again and again. The only way to be saved is to spend your lifetime on a pilgrimage. If this guy didn't know Joseph Campbell, I'd be very surprised. A lot of really powerful parallels in their work. Sheldon Kopp, I'll have to Google that later. Like Bunyan's pilgrim, the psychotherapy patient becomes a lonely wayfarer, a backpacking, footsore, simple, honest man. For such a holy warrior, the man who fully exists is a man on the march. It is the journey itself that is his salvation. I'll share this morning, I was speaking with Kara, my business manager, close best friend, and we were talking about the challenge right now of not having a place for me to be alone, to do my work, to read, to be still, to create, because I'm at my home office and my son's here, I can't go to a cafe. And I just saw that like, shit, I can just take my folding table somewhere and set it up in a park. And so I'm actually going to that's going to be my new office. I'm going to just walk with my folding table to a park, set it up, boom, instant office. And it's like, yeah, she's like, yeah, and if somebody kicks you out and just go somewhere else, like a hobo. And I was like, that's actually what my life was like for 3 years when I traveled the world and lived out of a backpack. I just carried my stuff with me. I set up shop where I needed to be, whether it was in my van when I was living in the van or with my backpack and just walking around. Here's where I am. Here's where I'm doing my writing and my photography. And this is my station until I have to leave and I just go somewhere else. And that was fine. There's no problem with getting kicked out when your home is on your back. And getting kicked out matters if where you were was where your freedom was. But your freedom is in the idea that I'm free wherever I am, then it's no big deal. And so that was nice to be reminded of my time living nomadically right time in this time of quarantine, because I can just get up and go and be wherever I need to be if I don't have the idea that I'm not free. You can't quarantine me if I believe that I'm free. It's impossible to quote unquote quarantine my soul if my soul doesn't believe that it's trappable. And I'm also reading a book. I'm reading like 11 books at once. This book by Edith Eger, The Choice, and it's about her story in Auschwitz and the concentration camp. She's a psychotherapist now, but her incredible, amazing way that she has used her mind since she was 15 and in. Hey, Anthony, what's up, brother? Paige, Kevin, Ty, Christina, Arnold, love you guys. Tito, thanks for being here. I'm reading this book. If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. You'd love this one. Anybody that's into coaching or psychotherapy, or Anthony, you probably would dig this too. Where was I? Let me go on. I'm reading and I'm sharing my thoughts as I go. It does not matter for the psychotherapy experience what the journey is about. That's so true. It doesn't matter what the fucking content is. It matters only that the patients stay on the road. The aboutness is the same pseudo problem of content that was created in the world of art when people used to ask what a painting was about. Here's a quote. In individual therapy, we may get the patient to focus on his past history. In group therapy, we may encourage the patient's curiosity about the group process. Some of what occurs as the patient reluctantly takes on these tasks is that he can begin to lose himself in the sense of giving himself over to the assigned work. As this unhooks him from his willful self-sorry demand for someone to give him relief right now, a new possibility arises. The patient can now begin to experience the therapist and the other patients as real people with selves of their own, as people who have meaning outside of himself, who can therefore be meaningful to him, and who can ultimately put him in touch with the meaning of his own life. I think that's so interesting because the function of a conversation with a coach or being in a group coaching program is to take you outside of this violent illusion that the way that you experience reality is true, and to have you be like, oh fuck, there's other people out there, they have lives, stuff's going on for them. Oh wait, this way I'm seeing the world is actually a construct of my past that I'm just living out as a habit. That's a fucking wake-up call, and you can hear it and intellectually understand it, but there's an embodied experience of it that puts the fucking lights on in a way that sets you free. And there's always a shifting moment in that for the first time, but then there's the lights being turned on over and over and over again that gets it more alive in the body and creates more freedom. And that's why for me, it's always a journey. That's just what he's talking about here. What time is it, by the way? Holy shit. I don't even know what time it is. Alexa, what time is it?
It's 12:29 p.m.
I gotta go. I got a call.
I am trying to respond.
Alexa, stop. Shut up. I have a call at 12:30. That was fun. Thank you guys for being here. I love you. I'll talk to you soon.